Okay, so imagine this, right? You've got six, just regular matchsticks. And the challenge, and I love these little brain teasers, is to arrange them. But here's the catch. You need to make four triangles. And every side of those triangles has to be exactly the length of one matchstick. So take a sec, just think about that.
It's funny because with that matchstick thing, you probably like instinctively started picturing them flat, right?
Yeah.
On a table or
Mm.
something. But that's the thing. Sometimes the answer is to kind of shift your perspective,
Mm.
go 3D. And that idea of thinking differently, that's exactly what we're diving into today, wouldn't you say?
Totally. And for this deep dive, we've been looking at some really cool stuff, especially this talk by Po-Shen Loh, mathematician, coach, the whole deal. And his main point is like spot on. The world's changed, hasn't it? It used to be, can you do the homework? Now it's, can you grade the homework?
And that's huge, right? Like think about ChatGPT. It can do the homework, so what's left for us?
Exactly. That's the key. Original thought. That's what matters now.
And doesn't that make you wonder, what's even the point of school now? If AI can do the facts and figures, what's human intelligence even for?
Right. And Po-Shen Loh, he's like in the thick of all this. He's a professor at Carnegie Mellon. He's a social entrepreneur. And get this, he coaches the U.S. International Math Olympiad team.
Like the top math kids in the entire country?
Yeah. But what struck me was he's worked with everyone. Olympiad kids, sixth graders who don't even have a math teacher. I mean, that's a range.
And think about it, that gives him such a broad view. He sees where education's working, where it's not.
So let's get to it. What's wrong with how we're teaching math, according to Lowe?
Well, he said the problem is too much rote learning, practicing the same problem types over and over, especially for school tests.
So you're saying it's like proving you listened and practiced, not that you actually get it, but he really contrasts that with math competitions, right?
Absolutely. Because those competition problems, they're designed to be new, never seen before.
Like they throw a curveball at you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The real world, your future jobs, it's all about new problems. But school doesn't really train for that, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that leads to, he calls it this huge industry around test prep, trying to guess every possible question, memorizing solutions, hours and hours of just drilling.
And that's the irony, right? They're trying to help students get good scores, but it actually hurts them in the long run. They become good at patterns, not at thinking.
And here's the saddest part. He says this whole system, besides being stressful for students, it takes away the students' chance to invent.
Because you're so worried about the right answer, the right method, that you don't get to be creative.
Yeah, exactly. And that creativity, that's what drives everything forward, in any field.
Exactly. You could be a musician, an artist, whatever. It's about coming up with a new thing, not just repeating the old.
Now, Lowe talks about how back in the 80s when he was doing these math competitions, every new problem was a chance to practice what he calls mental flexibility. What,
Right.
what exactly does that mean?
It's about mindset, really. Back then, they didn't have all the answers online, all the prep books. So you had to figure it out yourself.
Use your own brain.
Exactly. So every new problem was a chance to stretch, to try different things, to get flexible mentally.
But he feels like school today, with all this test prep focus, takes that away from students, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. A new problem, instead of being exciting, it's like, oh no, I hope I've seen this before.
It's the opposite of what it should be.
It is. The focus is on the answer, not on the thinking to get to the answer. And that's where you miss out on building those skills, those mental muscles.
No, it's interesting. All these insights, they led Lowe to start his own education company, right? He started with this website, XP, with free math and science explanations. What happened there?
It's a classic story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great idea, but you need a way to make it work financially. That's what he learned. The website was all about free knowledge, but it needed a business model.
So it was good in theory, but not sustainable. But he didn't stop, right? It evolved. It became about filmed teaching, paid access.
Right. He needed a revenue stream, so he started making his own teaching videos, and people could pay to access them.
But then even that wasn't the end, was it? He realized people really wanted live interaction with experts who are like friendly, approachable. That's hard to scale though, isn't it?
That's the thing about learning. Sure, videos are helpful, but there's nothing like talking to a real person, asking your own questions, getting that back and forth. Hard to do with thousands of people, though.
So that's where his current model comes in, this win-win-win ecosystem, he calls it. It's really clever. It tries to solve several problems at once for different groups of people. How does that work?
Okay, so he realized there were three things going on. Students needing help learning math, gifted math kids needing more challenges, and drama students needing part-time jobs. See where this is going?
I think I do, yeah. He linked them all together somehow.
He did. He got acting coaches to train high school math students to communicate better, basically. Then those high schoolers, they teach the younger kids.
So the high schoolers are getting leadership skills, the younger kids get better teaching, and the acting coaches, well, they have jobs.
Exactly. Everybody wins. The high schoolers aren't just tutoring, they're learning how to teach. And the acting students, they get to use their skills and make some money.
And he's really big on this. He says any task for the high schoolers, it has to be something their parents would agree is the best use of their time. That's a high standard.
It is. Because they're teenagers, right?
Mm.
Their time is precious. And this whole system, it's got to benefit everyone.
Now, the scale of this thing is crazy. He estimates it could reach 100,000 high school students teaching 1 million middle schoolers. That's a national impact.
It is. Think about how many kids they could help. And it's all about that personal touch, that engagement that's missing from a lot of classrooms.
Now, the subjects they focus on, algebra, geometry, combinatorics, number theory, some people might think that's narrow, but there's a reason for it, right?
Oh, absolutely. These aren't just random math topics. They're chosen because they teach you how to think, period. Logic, patterns, problem solving, the stuff you need for anything, not just math.
And the problems, a lot of them come from middle school math competitions,
Yeah.
which, as we said, those are all about new, tricky problems.
Exactly. It's not about memorizing those specific solutions. It's about the practice, the struggle, building those thinking muscles.
And the end goal. Students who are independent learners, who don't need constant classes. That's empowering, isn't it?
It is. It's
Yeah.
about teaching you how to learn, not just what to learn. So you can keep learning your whole life on your own.
He makes this really cool comparison to software engineering. So imagine a software engineer has a tough problem. They'll research online, look for similar things on, like, Stack Overflow. But even then, they have to think critically, right?
Of course, they can't just copy and paste code. They have to understand it, adapt it to their specific problem. It's about thinking, not just doing.
And that brings us back to AI, to ChatGPT. People are going to use these tools, no question. But the skill will be being able to grade the homework.
Meaning, does the AI's answer even make sense? Is it accurate? Is it useful? That's the human part.
Exactly. It's about learning how to think, not just what to do. Especially now, with all these tools around us.
Yeah, information is everywhere. But it's the thinking that makes it valuable.
Lowe also has this philosophy about creating value. He's really big on interacting with people, understanding their needs firsthand. He even used to give math talks, like in public parks.
Imagine that, huh? Just
Yeah.
randomly talking about math in the park.
Yeah.
But that's how he got feedback, saw what people were struggling with.
So his ideas aren't just out of thin air. They're based on real interactions, real problems. He's seen it all himself.
And that's probably why they resonate. They're coming from experience, not just theory. They're addressing the stuff people are actually dealing with.
Now, he calls himself a social entrepreneur, which is interesting. His focus is on solving the customer's problem fast, not on, maximizing profits or whatever.
Right, his goal is to help, genuinely. Even if that means students don't need his services anymore because they've become such good learners.
And his definition of success, convincing a huge number of people to enjoy being thoughtful, that's pretty cool.
It is. It's not about grades or achievement. It's about changing how people think, making them love the process of thinking.
Now, looking ahead, he sees this AI era as like a Wild West, full of opportunities but also unknowns. And he says the winners will be the people who can create value.
And that makes sense, right? Things are changing so fast. The people who can spot a need and come up with a solution, they'll thrive.
He even encourages everyone to be a little bit of an entrepreneur, to start something new or innovate within a company.
It's about taking initiative, right? Seeing where you can contribute, where you can make a difference. That's how society keeps moving forward.
And speaking of moving forward, all this technology, all this data, it needs to be protected, right? That's where Stonefly comes in. If you're looking for reliable, scalable data solutions, they've got it all. Immutable snapshots, encryption, ransomware protection, you name it.
Data security is huge.
Yeah,
Especially now with AI and everything. You got to make sure your information is safe.
absolutely. And Stonefly, they're the experts. They've been around forever. They've got a great reputation. They offer all these advanced services, really good prices too.
So you're saying it's not just about the tech, it's about the value they provide.
Exactly. And they're constantly innovating. Storage, backup, disaster recovery, now even AI stuff. Definitely check them out.
Makes sense. In this day and age, you can't just stand still. You got to
Yeah.
keep evolving, right?
Exactly. And Stonefly, they get that. So go to stonefly.com or email sales@stonefly.com to learn more. Tell them we sent you.
You heard it here first. Stonefly, for all your data needs.
All right, so to wrap things up, the big takeaway today, inspired by Po-Shen Loh, is this. In the age of AI, the most important skill is thinking. Creative thinking, problem solving, critical thinking, the whole package.
And that's what education should focus on. Not just facts, but how to use those facts, how to think for yourself.
And that's the thing, those skills, they're future-proof. The world's changing so fast, but the ability to think, that'll always be valuable.
Totally. And it's not just about school, it's about life, right? Being a curious person, a lifelong learner, that's what matters.
So here's a thought for all of you listening. Think about how you approach learning, how you solve problems. Are you just doing the homework, or are you grading the homework? Are you thinking critically? Are you being creative?
That's a good one to think about, right? Are you passive or are you active? Are you questioning things, digging deeper?
Those are the habits that make a real difference in the long run.
And it's never too late to start, right?
Totally. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you got something out of it.
And maybe, take another look at those matchsticks. With a fresh perspective, who knows what you'll see?
That's a good point. Sometimes all it takes is a new way of looking at things.
Exactly. Keep those minds flexible, everyone. Keep exploring.
Until next time, happy thinking.